61% of rideshare drivers earn less than minimum wage once every real cost is counted. Most of them never find that out. Omari almost didn't either. He was 29. He drove 12 hours a day in a gray Camry he still owed $14,000 on. 6 months earlier, a warehouse had cut his overtime, then cut him. Rideshare filled the gap, or it seemed to. Every Sunday night, Omari opened the app and watched the number. $780, $860, $903. He screenshotted it. He sent it to his mother. Look what I made this week. First, consider this. $903 divided across 40 hours comes to $22.58 an hour. That is what the app shows. That is not what Omari kept. Then look at this. A University of Colorado study of rideshare drivers found something similar. Gross pay near $15 an hour. Net pay after real vehicle costs closer to $8. 61% of the rides studied paid less than minimum wage once the driver's own car absorbed the difference. Now add this. Omari was not careless. He was not bad with money. He drove longer than most, avoided debt where he could, and still believed every single Sunday that the number on his screen was the truth. Maybe it was the hours. Maybe he just needed to drive more. That was the first theory. It did not hold. Omari drove more. The number climbed. What he kept did not climb with it. Gas first. $40, sometimes $50 a day, gone before the day started. Then the oil changes he pushed back 2 months at a time. Then the tires, worn thin from stop-and-go traffic nobody pays him to sit in. Then, quietly, the taxes. Nothing withheld, nothing set aside. A bill every April that always seemed to arrive angrier than the year before. None of this showed up in the Sunday number. Not once. But here is what nobody in that number ever told him. The gap between what the app shows and what a driver keeps is not an accident. It is the entire business model. The app calls it flexibility. The driver's own car calls it depreciation. Both are describing the same 40 cents a mile, quietly leaving Omari's pocket every single trip. He met Reginald on a Tuesday at a gas pump on Cascade Road. Reginald was 61. He'd been driving for 6 years, longer than almost anyone Omari had met. He had a small spiral notebook resting on the hood of his car, and he was writing in it while the pump ran. "You tracking your miles?" Reginald asked, not looking up. Omari said no. Said he'd never really thought about it. Reginald tapped the notebook. "This right here," he said, "is the only reason I still have a car that runs." He held up 2 fingers. "Money comes in the front." He held up his gas cap. "It leaves out the back. Most of us only ever look at the front." The old voice came back that night. Loud, familiar. It said, "You should have stayed at the warehouse. You are not built for numbers. This is just how it is for people like you." Omari sat with it for a moment. Then he opened his glove box and pulled out the receipts he'd been stuffing in the cup holder for months, crumpled coffee-stained. Dozens of them, never once added up. Then, because this is how these things tend to work, the Camry needed brakes. $612, due immediately, no warning. Omari sat down on the kitchen floor, with the receipts spread out around him like a hand of cards nobody wanted to play. He thought about his mother and the screenshots he'd sent her. He thought about the warehouse job he used to complain about, the one that paid $19 an hour and never once surprised him with a bill. He sat with both of those thoughts for a long time, not fighting them, just letting them be true. Then something shifted. not loudly. He picked up a pen, $903 that week. Gas, $191. Maintenance, averaged out, $140. Insurance, his share, $60. Taxes he now understood he owed, $112. Total kept, $400. For 42 hours behind the wheel, $9.52 an hour, less than the fast food job down the street, less than the warehouse he'd lost, less than minimum wage in his own state. His friend Curtis laughed when Omari told him he was tracking every mile now. "You're overthinking a side hustle, man. Just drive." Day 1, Omari tracked anyway. Day 5, it felt like busy work for nothing. Day 9, sitting in his car outside a gas station, he almost stopped. Almost went back to not knowing, because not knowing had been easier. The old voice tried once more. Just drive. Stop counting. The number was never going to change anything anyway. Omari looked at Reginald's notebook, still on his passenger seat, where he'd copied the format. He picked it up. He wrote the mileage down anyway. Day 14. Something small happened. By logging every mile, Omari found $3,240 in deductions he would have missed filing blind. Real money, recovered, simply because he finally looked at the back of the bucket instead of only the front. Here is what is actually true, and it applies whether you drive, freelance, or clock in anywhere at all. Income is not the number a screen shows you. Income is what survives contact with the true cost of earning it. Anyone who never checks the back of the bucket will always believe they are doing better than they are. That is not a mistake. That is a bucket with a hole in it. And most people are never shown where the hole is. Comment below. What does your real hourly number actually look like? If nobody ever taught you to check, there are more stories like this one here. Subscribe.